first attempt at a story time video. Never done one before. I assume it's just telling stories. But, so I know a lot of people out there have a lot of horror retail stories, you know, from working retail job. Of course, you're gonna get like the crazy customers, the rude ass customers, and someone who works at a grocery store. I thought I'd seen it all, but turns out I haven't even seen a little bit of it all, because once I started working at the coffee shop that I work at, things got a little interesting. Now, I try not to judge customers prematurely. You know, I give everybody an opportunity to present their best self. Some people don't give a shit. But, you know, I try not to think too many of them are stupid. I understand not a lot of people understand how coffee works. That's fine. But I have had quite a few customers who didn't understand like basic concepts. And this one time, I had a line of like 9 people. A customer came up, asked for a chocolate cookie. Now, keep in mind, we have several different kinds of cookies in our display case. And 2 of them were like a chocolate chunk, chocolatey cookie. So I was like, oh, which one are you referring to? And he looked at me like he wasn't sure what I meant by that. And I was like, we have more than one cookie with chocolate in it, so which one did you want? So he walks over to the bake case and goes, this one. Well, I'm still at the register. I can't see what he's pointing at. I said, which one is that? Like, read the name card in front of the plate of cookies. And he just kept pointing, this one. I was like, so I walk over there, and I'm like, which one is it again? He points at it. He points at the Reese cup cookie. Peanut butter cookie. So I was like, oh, okay, obviously that's the one you want. So I walk over, ring him out, I said, okay, 1 Reese's peanut butter cup cookie. And he goes, oh no, not peanut butter. I'm like, well, that's the fucking cookie you pointed at. So I was like, well, if you didn't want that one, which one did you want? So he walks over and he points at yet another plate instead of just saying the name. And I said, well, if you notice, you know, there's none on the plate. Because we just baked some fresh ones, and so they're hot out of the oven. I don't know if that's something you would want, because I can't like exactly serve it, because if I would try to pick it up, it would fall apart. Is that okay? And he goes, what? And I'm like, oh, you know, we can't exactly serve it because it's really, really hot because we just got out of the oven. Unless you're okay with that, in which case then yes, we can totally serve it, but you know, if that's the cookie that you want, just so you know, like, that's the condition it's in. And he seemed lost. Like, he'd never heard of fresh cookies before. So I turned to the girl standing next to me, who she was making the drinks, and she gives me this look like, I'm not sure what you want me to say. So she looks at the dude and goes, you know, when you make cookies and they're fresh? And he looks at me again and is like lost, has no idea what we're talking about. And I'm only trying to explain to him again, like, you know, they're fresh, they're gonna fall apart if we try and pick them up. If you're okay with that, then I can totally give you one, but just so you know, it's not gonna be like one solid cookie, because it still has to like cool down. And he goes, can I see them? Like, he's never seen a cookie before, so I was like, okay, put on an oven mitt, pull out the tray, pick it up by the tongs, and it like starts to fall apart as I'm just showing him. So I set it back down, and he's like, oh, that's fine. Alright, cool. So, problem solved. But I just have to wonder, what about what I was saying was confusing? You know, what would you do if you were in his shoes? Would you have understood? What would you do if you were in my shoes? Like, would you have explained it better, differently? Did I say something wrong? Because I thought I was being pretty clear about what cookies were. And I've had my fair share of frustrating customers. And, you know, if there's ever a language barrier, like somebody comes up and English is not their first language, and they have a hard time describing to me what they want, I'm never really bothered by that. Like, if you come up to me and you're trying to explain what it is that you want, and I'm not understanding, or I'm trying to understand, and then you try to understand what I'm saying, you know, we're working together. That's fine. I've had plenty of people that came in that were deaf, and all they did was, like, motion for a piece of paper. I hand it to them, they wrote it down. You know, problem solved. But this one time, and I'm working by myself, thank God no one else got in line, but I'm working by myself. This man, this woman come up, and I'm like, hi, what can I get for you? And he has a very thick accent. I can't quite pinpoint where he's from, but he said he wants a cafe espresso, which I'm like, and he said coffee espresso at first, but then later confirmed that it was cafe espresso. I don't know what that means. So he said, I want a coffee espresso. And I was like, so do you want coffee with espresso in there? And he says, no, that's not what I want. And I was like, oh, okay, do you want coffee or do you want espresso? Because they're different here. Like, we have drip coffee, like, from the dispenser, and we also have, like, espresso beans from our machine that, like, drip out espresso shots. I'm like, are you wanting, like, espresso shots? And he goes, no. I'm like, okay, so you do want coffee? And he's like, no, I want a coffee espresso. So I presented to him coffee, espresso, and coffee with espresso. And he said no to all three of them. So at this point, I'm super confused. I'm like, so what exactly do you want? And he points up at our menu where it says Cafe Creations. And on one part of it says espresso, and the other part it says coffee. And he goes, see that right there? Cafe Creations. I said, yeah. And he goes, right above it. And I said, espresso. And he goes, yes. I go, okay, that's the espresso beans in the machine, where you get the espresso shots and people just, like, knock them back like a shot. And he's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, you just said that's what you wanted, and I'm explaining to you what it is. But this is why I explain it to people, in case they read something, they think it is what they want. I explain it to them, they're like, oh, it's not actually what I want. Cool, so we're back to square one. Still don't know what he wants. And he says that he's from Italy, and in Italy, they call it a cafe espresso. And I'm like, cool beans. What is it called here? Because if you can't explain to me what it is that you normally drink, I can't make it for you. And I'm trying to explain what each one of these things is, and trying to offer solutions, combinations, whatever. And all he just says is no, cafe espresso, over and over and over again. Like, he's not trying any other words, just saying no or cafe espresso. And I'm like, I'm lost, dude. Because he's not offering up any new information. He's looking over at what I assume to be his wife, like, am I crazy? And she's like, she doesn't know how to solve the problem. And so I'm like, again, I'm like, please describe to me what it is that you want. And so he points at the large cup of coffee, like the large paper cup. And I was like, pull it out for him, and he's like, just a little bit. Which I don't know why you grabbed the large cup. You could have grabbed a small cup. And I was like, so just like a little bit of, like, I was like, that's like shots of espresso. Like, you would just pour shots of espresso in a cup for you to drink. And he's like, no. I was like, do you want just like a little bit of coffee in a cup? He says, no. I'm like, all right, I'm running out of options here. I don't know what else this guy could possibly want. And after about, I would say, a good 10 minutes of us trying to figure things out and him giving me these looks like I'm a moron for not understanding something that he wants that we clearly don't carry. And he's not understanding that saying cafe espresso a million times isn't gonna solve the problem. Like, you're not giving me any other information, dude. So he eventually, I don't even remember how we got to the conclusion, but he wanted just a cup. So I just handed him, like, the small paper cup, and he said, just pour coffee into it until I say stop. Just like a little bit. And I was like, okay. So I fill it like maybe a third full, and he's like, stop. Because he tells me to stop at that point. I said, okay. And he goes, see, that's too much. Oh my God. He told me when to stop. He literally watched me pour it too full and then said, stop, see, that's wrong, when he was giving me the directions. So, alright, whatever. So I was like, okay. So I put the lid on it and I just hand it to him and he goes, now another one. And I was like, what? So he wants another cup of coffee that's like that full. So I grabbed another one and I went for like maybe a second. Maybe 1 second. And he's like, stop, good. Like, it was barely even like a, and then you're done. Like, he's out of coffee. Like, that's all he asked for. And I was like, okay, I guess that's fine. So I just charged him for a small cup of coffee because I didn't know what else to charge him for. But I'm so confused as to, you know, I asked, did you want a cup of coffee, but just with a little bit of coffee in it? And he said no. And I'm pointing to the thing he later asked me to do for him. Like, I pointing at the coffee dispenser, I said, a little bit of this in a cup. He says no, and then proceeds to make me put a little bit of that in a cup. Okay. And now this next story isn't exactly like one specific story, but I've had several, not several, like just a ton of people who like to tell me how it's different at other stores, which has always confused me. Like when people come into my coffee shop and they go, well, you know, they do this differently at Starbucks. Great, we're not a Starbucks. Oh, it's cheaper here. Cool, then why did you come here? So, I mean, I had this old dude come up. It was like him and some old friend of his. First guy goes, I'll have a tall cup of coffee. Cool. Pour the coffee, done, he pays, he's done. Simple enough. Next guy comes up and he orders like a Frappuccino, which we can make. We have the recipes from Starbucks, but we're not an actual Starbucks. We just make some of their stuff. And he says, like, he's describing to me what he wants. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's like a Frappuccino. It's like a milkshake, but it's like a little thicker. And he's like, okay, that's exactly what I want. Orders a small. I said, okay, your total's $4.25. And he's like, it's only $1 at McDonald's. But why the fuck are you here then? Why are you here? I don't understand that. Why did you tell me that it's cheaper at McDonald's as if I'm gonna go, oh, you're right, it is. Let me change that price for you. No, it's $4.25 for a reason. More shit goes into this drink. Plus it's Starbucks. So it's gonna be more expensive. McDonald's makes a bunch of cheap shit. Starbucks does not. It's a longer process to make our stuff. That's why it costs more. If you didn't feel like paying $4.25 for a drink, then why did you come to a place that sells $4.25 drinks? Like, a lot of our smalls are a minimum $4. If you wanted something from McDonald's, should have gone to McDonald's. That's all I'm saying. And I had a girl come up and she ordered one of the s'mores Frappuccinos, but she said she didn't want marshmallow whipped cream and she didn't want the chocolate drizzle. Which, if you know anything about the s'mores Frappuccino, it's marshmallow whipped cream, chocolate drizzle, the Frappuccino itself, which is like a vanilla-based Frappuccino, and then like graham cracker topping. Graham cracker. Ugh. So she essentially eliminated 2 of the 4 main ingredients for the Frappuccino. And so I was, like, I heard her order it, so when I'm making it, I made it exactly the way she asked for it. And so I hand her drink, and she takes a drink, and she goes, this doesn't taste right. And I said, I know, you removed 2 of, like, the 3 key ingredients. I mean, the graham cracker topping isn't even part of the drink, really, it just goes on top. So it's like, that doesn't really contribute to the flavor. So it's like, of the 3 ingredients that do contribute to the flavor, you removed 2 of them. I'm like, it's essentially a vanilla Frappuccino. And she goes, well, normally they just put it all on the top. And I was like, who's they? She goes, Starbucks. Like, we're not a Starbucks. And bonus, you didn't say that. You didn't say put it on top. You said you didn't want it. So I didn't put it in there. So I think it's always so funny and a little frustrating for when people like have a regular drink or like something that they usually get whenever they come to like a certain establishment, also known as Starbucks. So when they go to Starbucks every single day and get the same thing that's like slightly altered in their favor, like whatever they want, they've changed it. And then they come here and we do not know them, we've never seen them before, and they order something. They just assume we're gonna know what specific things they want done to their drink, and I'm like, no, bitch, that's not how that works.